Hello and welcome to the National Timely Action Hour. This is the show where we talk about everything from comic books to Star Wars and everything in between. My name is Aiden, and welcome if you're new. I hope you are all doing very well today. Today I am going to be doing a review of the Invincible Iron Man, Demon in a Bottle. This is by David Michelinie and John Romita Jr. from 1979. So this comprises of Iron Man issues 120 to 129, and this story is seminal, and if you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you might recognize plot points brought up in the second Iron Man film, and this has been a defining moment, some would say the defining moment for the character since his inception in 1963. So this story arc begins with Tony Stark, and at this point the world did not know that he was Iron Man. That did not happen until the early 2000s. So from 1963 to I believe 2001, he had a secret identity of Iron Man being his bodyguard. And so Tony Stark is on a jet going back to America. He was overseas during doing business, and out of nowhere a tank comes and knocks the plane out of the air. So Tony takes his suitcase, which he carries his armor in, and goes and changes, and then he is able to stop the plane from crashing into the ocean, and he lays it, like, he can't just pick it up, so he has to guide it while holding on to, like, sort of move it around. And the suit augments his strength, yes, but he's not Superman, nor is he Thor, so he has to guide it, and it lands safely, you know, as safely as it could in the situation. But some soldiers come, and the Navy comes, and they help with the cleanup, and Iron Man ends up on this island with this old man who lives there, and as it turns out, the Submariner, aka Namor Mackenzie, aka Prince Namor of Atlantis, the first Marvel Comics hero, is also on that island because he was injured by pollution in the ocean, and so he washed up on the shore of the island, and the old man helped him, and he saw the plane, and he he was fighting these soldiers. I'm going to spoil it anyway. So Roxxon Oil, this evil corporation, disguised some of their employees as U.S. Navy men, and they wanted to mine that island for vibranium. And Namor, he threw this tank at them to scare them away. And the tank hit the plane and it crashed. So because of this whole misunderstanding, we see a cool fight between Iron Man and Namor. So let me show you some of this cool art. So we have Jim Rhodes, the future War Machine, and Tony's girlfriend Beth, who owns a security firm, so she's willing to jump into a fight. So she and Rhodey go to help Tony, and it's this really cool issue. It's sort of like a James Bond, Roger Moore spy movie. Oh yeah, and Iron Man has to plug in to the guy's generator to recharge his armor. But yeah, this is just a really cool issue, and here's Namor fighting alongside him because they put aside their differences. Then the island blows up, and the man is left homeless. But Namor promises to help him find a place. And I'm like, what's Namor gonna do? He's the king of Atlantis. He doesn't know how to get an apartment on the surface. Like, what's gonna happen? Anyway. So they go their separate ways, and in the next issue, also during the fight with Namor, Tony's armor started to malfunction, and we see, this is dramatic irony for those of you who do not know. Dramatic irony is when the audience knows what's happening, but the characters within the story do not. So we get some dramatic irony when we see this new guy who we've never seen before this issue. He has managed to hack Iron Man's armor, so he causes it to seize up when he's fighting Namor. So he almost drowns, and then he manages to, take back control of it. And he just thinks that it was just some weird mistake or some, glitch or whatever. But in the next issue, we see Iron Man going back to America, and he reminisces about his captivity in Vietnam when he first became Iron Man. So he was demonstrating some new weapon for the U.S. Army, and afterwards he accidentally stepped on a mine, and it blew up, and the shrapnel went into his chest cavity, and he was dying. And the leader of the Viet Cong in this region, a guy named Wong Chu, he is trying to get Stark to build him a weapon to defeat the Americans and take the South. And he has this one doctor that he has kidnapped named Ho Yin Sen, who's a Tibetan surgeon and physicist. He has Yin Sen, operate on Stark to keep him alive. Yin Sen puts this electromagnet in there to keep the shrapnel from going in and piercing his heart and killing him. And then they get to work on building the Mark I Iron Man armor. And unfortunately, Ensign is killed, but Stark manages to kill all of the Vietnamese and escape, and then he goes back to America. And that's the entire issue, is just a flashback. And we see this really cool splash, Mark I, Mark II, all the way up to the modern time, and we see a flashback of him founding the Avengers. And we get the reveal of the new villain, Justin Hammer, and he looks sort of like Peter Cushing, which is just an interesting little tidbit. Then the next issue, we see Iron Man go to Atlantic City with his girlfriend, and some classic Iron Man villains try to rob the joint, and Iron Man has to stop them. And that's basically the entire issue. So we get Blizzard, Molten Man, and Whiplash try to rob the place. And throughout the story, Iron Man, Tony is drinking a lot of alcohol, and then, which is why it's called Demon in a Bottle. He develops alcoholism, so he's drinking a lot. And Bethany looks great on their date, and he defeats the villains. Bada boom, bada bing. Look at these lame-ass villains. Before the movie came out, Iron Man sucked, and I'm not too fond of him. He's not my favorite Marvel Comics character, but I think he's cool looking, and he has some cool character moments. Not during Civil War or after, but it's just a fun swashbuckling adventure we get in this issue. And yeah. Then afterwards, Bethany, since she doesn't know that it's Tony in the suit, she scolds Iron Man because she's like, "You're supposed to be protecting him. You weren't doing your job right." And then we see Iron Man try to fly around to clear his head, and he helps this woman. This beautiful woman is stuck on the side of the road with her son and her son's friends, and because they're having car trouble, so he fixes the car up for them. And then she's like, "You're hot, see ya, Superfly guy." And then we see more of Justin Hammer's evil scheme. So he wants to frame Iron Man for murdering this diplomat who's going to be at the United Nations in New York, who also happens to be a fan of Iron Man. So Stark Enterprises gets the contract to be his private security, and then Hammer hacks the suit and just uses the repulsor ray out of the chest to kill the guy. And I'm like, jeez. Then Iron Man, Rhodey's the only one who knows that Tony is Iron Man at this point. So Tony and Rhodey have to go on the run, sorta. They go to Monaco to investigate because it leads them there. And but first, Iron Man goes on a bender. And then he goes to Captain America and asks him to help him train so he knows how to defend himself, because he fires Iron Man on television. And then he goes to Scott Lang, the second Ant-Man, and asks him to help break into this place to get files. And yeah, then we go to Monaco, we fight some bad guys, and bada boom bada bing. Next issue, they sort of reminisce on what's happened up to this point. Then Stark comes face to face with Hammer, and Hammer has this private island ship thing that's really cool. And I love Romita's art. I'm a big fan of his work. Bob Layton, who would later be the regular artist on Iron Man, did the inks. And I also like his work. And David Michelinie, he's a great writer. He and Todd McFarlane co-created Venom together. So Iron Man fights the henchmen, and the villains return. You know, Molten Man, Lizard, and Whiplash. He manages to get his suitcase and turn into Iron Man. And we get other villains like Beetle, and I forget half of their names because they're so forgettable. But he fights a bunch of his villains, and it's just really cool. So from here, Tony fires Jarvis because he's just in a drunken stupor, and Jarvis is like, "Oh, so I care about you, but you're being so mean to me." And yeah. So here is the iconic cover, Demon in a Bottle, where Tony deals with his alcoholism. Not permanently, but for the time being. So, he gets drunk and he crashes through his window. But he can't save this train because he's too drunk, and then he's like, what's the point of it? And then Beth, his girlfriend, tells Tony how her former husband was a drug addict and it got him killed, and so she doesn't want to go through that again with Tony, so she helps him sort of sober up, and it's a really heartwarming scene. And then he goes and apologizes to Jarvis. And also, a recurring theme throughout this story is S.H.I.E.L.D. is trying to get Stark Enterprises so that they can make their own weapons with it. And I'm like, can they do that? But anyway, so they managed to get the shares back. Actually, no, they don't. They do their darndest to try, though. And yeah, then the last issue, here's Nick Fury. And because Nick Fury is only African American in the Ultimate Marvel Universe, which is an alternate universe. This is the main universe. Here he is white and does not look like Samuel L. Jackson. That's something that they did without his permission in the Ultimate Universe. They just drew him to look like Samuel L. Jackson, so Jackson called his agent and he was like, yo, get me Marvel so I can, play the character if they're going to draw him without licensing my likeness. Anyway, so Tony tries to appeal to Fury, and then we see Tony just fight this chick whose name I forget, who has this super suit, and yeah, that's the end of it. So that is Demon in a Bottle. It is, you know, there's a lot of hype building this up, but is it worth the hype? Not really. But is it a good story? Yes. I really enjoyed the artwork and the writing of it. I just thought that it was overall a good story, and it made me appreciate Iron Man a little bit more. But this is the pocketbook edition, and you can find it online at many different places, and I'm sure you can find it at a local comic book store. I bought this online, but I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up, and if you didn't, hit the thumbs down. If you want to check out more comic book reviews, hit the subscribe button if you're new, and ring the bell to be notified whenever I post new videos. And in the link and in the description of this video, I'll leave links to my podcast and my social media accounts, as well as my Patreon page and my Teespring store. So if you would like to support the channel financially, I would greatly appreciate that. And you get a whole bunch of benefits like early access and private messages and all sorts of wonderful benefits. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful day.